The Heavenly Demon. Can't Live a Normal Life. By Sanchin. Chapter 326. The Fall of Arcadia. Part 1. The man lost consciousness after stuttering his words. According to the doctor, it seemed like his body was worn out from traveling across the endless mountains while starving for days. Other than that, his body didn't suffer from any huge injury. The man didn't require any particular treatment. After being well-fed for 3 days, he left the hospital fully recovered. And Dmitri convened an emergency meeting as soon as he came out of the hospital. With the leadership present in the conference room, Roman Dmitri questioned the man. "What has brought the man of Luna Kingdom across the endless mountains?" he asked. "Before I state why I came here, please allow me to explain what has happened to Luna," the man replied. His name was Caden, a knight of Luna Kingdom. He gazed up at Roman with eyes full of sorrow. "Exactly 3 months ago, we lost contact with Queen Isabel, the sacred one of our kingdom. After the war between Dmitri and Kronos, Her Majesty remained in Salamander to end Kronos' schemes rather than to return to Luna. I also don't know what has happened to her. But as soon as we lost contact with her, the sacred power protecting our lands grew weak," the knight continued. Arcadia, located on the other side of the endless mountains, had become frozen after the extreme frost. Its lands became uninhabitable and desolate from the cold until Isabel's birth. The people of Arcadia called her a blessing from the heavens. Queen Isabel's sacred power was our only hope to save our world from the cold. But with her power gone, it became impossible for us to stop the cold. Countless people have died and are suffering from hunger. Lord Roman Dmitri, Arcadia is falling apart. To protect Luna Kingdom, we must confirm the safety of our queen and save her. So, you're here to request us to help search for your queen, right? Yes, I earnestly request you, the knight bowed before Roman. His trembling voice conveyed his desperate feelings. As soon as Roman heard the knight's words, he suspected the Kronos Empire. No other empire or kingdom could be a threat to Isabel. Caden came to Dmitri, aware that Roman was the only person on Salamander who could stand against the evil empire. Roman believed it was worth looking for Isabel even if Caden hadn't requested it. After all, she was the person who had warned him about Alexander, which meant the scheme she tried to stop must be related to Dmitri's future. "All right. Dmitri will help you find your queen," replied Roman. "Thank you," the knight brightly shouted. He continuously bowed his head before Roman to express his utmost gratitude. But instead of leaving the conference room, the knight stood before Roman, hesitant to leave. "Do you have another request?" asked Roman. Actually, the knight was hesitant to continue. He clenched his lips tight. But eventually, he opened his mouth, knowing Roman was the only person he could trust. "There is another significant problem Luna Kingdom, no, Arcadia faces. After losing the sacred power to protect our lands, all of Arcadia, including Luna and other races, began to suffer from starvation. And 2 months ago, a major problem emerged. As living creatures in Arcadia gradually died in starvation and cold, one of the races decided to terminate the peace agreement. Peace and stability in Arcadia were maintained through the peace agreement signed by all races. However, it was only a matter of time before its lands got smeared in a bloodbath once one of the races chose to destroy its peace. Orcs, who used to be called the rovers of the Grey Wastelands, suddenly declared war against other races. 10 days earlier, while Salamander was enjoying its peace, Luna Kingdom's 7th repository came under attack. "Stop them. We must protect this place at whatever cost." Twang twang. Hundreds of arrows filled the sky and poured down on the snowfield outside the castle walls. Soldiers covered in animal fur to endure the cold relentlessly fired arrows at the enemies. But unfortunately, their future seemed bleak. The creatures ferociously rushing toward the walls across the snowfield were riding white wolves, violent predators who had almost gone extinct from the cold. Grrrr. Growl. The soldiers sensed their hair stand up, intimidated by the wolf's growl. The man, who appeared like the commander, stepped forward on the walls and gathered his mana. Then, he fired an aura-coated arrow into the sky. Blast! Rumble! A massive explosion swept the white, snowy field. The aura-coated arrow instantly pierced through one wolf's head. Thwack! Yelp! The beast instantly dropped dead. As the white wolf collapsed to the ground with a sharp cry, the creature riding on the beast rolled over the field and died. The aura arrow was strong enough to kill a white wolf and the creature riding on it. However, the creatures following behind didn't even bother to check on their companion. Instead, they continued to rush forward, stomping over it. Blood gushed out of its body, and its flesh was torn to shreds, but the creatures didn't stop. Their only goal was to seize the walls. In the end, they arrived before the castle gates. Grunt. Follow my lead, one creature cried in a rough voice. The bipedal creatures were a special race with rough skin and the face of a pig. They were orcs, which Caden mentioned. The leader of the group charged at the gates without stopping and raised its massive axe. Crowhair. Then, it manifested its aura and charged forward. He smashed the wooden gates, erupting with his aura. Wham! Rumble! The gates were shattered. Several layers of magic shield protected the gates, but they were ineffective against the orc's fierce strike. The people behind the gates were lost in despair. The orc leading the group was none other than Grakthar, the orc lord of the Grey Wasteland. The gates were wide open. As soon as he entered the gates, it made a large, rough cry, swinging its axe. Kill them all, it grunted. Thwack! Ugh, cried a soldier. That marked the beginning of the massacre. The commander and his fellow knights exploded their auras to stop Grakthar, but they were nothing but mere dolls before the orc lord's overwhelming force. The orcs refused to stop as they chopped down the soldiers one after another. While clear, white snow fell from the sky, the earth turned red as steam bloomed from the warm, crimson blood. It didn't take long for the orcs to seize Luna's seventh repository. After forcing the prisoners to kneel on the ground, Grakthar ordered its subordinates. Take these humans and all the food supplies you can find here. We will store them together and consume them later on. Yes, Commander. The citizens of Luna were frightened when Grakthar referred to them as food. They prayed to the heavens for mercy, hoping someone would come to their rescue. Ugh. Arg. However, hearing the painful cries echo from afar, they squeezed their eyes shut and closed their ears in disbelief. They were devastated, realizing they could no longer live as humans. The people were stunned at Caden's remarks. Discount Conrad stepped forward and asked the knight after hearing his words. I heard Arcadia is a land of harmony where diverse races live together in peace. I still can't believe your words. Aren't there any legal constraints against those who break the peace agreement? There is none. The peace agreement is nothing but a symbol of faith. The various races in Arcadia didn't agree to peace to stop violence. After all, violence never existed in our lands in the first place. Caden's voice trembled. Conflict first occurred with the rise of the new orc lord. The orc named Grakthar was never a huge fan of Arcadia's peaceful atmosphere. He was known for his hostility, so as soon as Queen Isabel disappeared, he took the chance to attack other tribes and races. And not long after, he invaded Luna Kingdom, he continued with a gloomy face. Peace was lost along with Arcadia's destruction. Its snowy lands were tainted with blood, and its people were starving to death in the cold. Grakthar's goal is to use all other races, except his own, as food supplies. He's targeting all the repositories Queen Isabel made. Arcadia will be completely destroyed at this rate, Lord Roman. So please help us and Luna Kingdom, the knight begged. It was a heart-wrenching story. It was devastating to hear how other humans were being consumed as food. However, Roman's response was indifferent. It's not an easy decision to make to support Luna Kingdom. Not only do we have to cross the endless mountains, but we have to endure the freezing cold in your land. Not to forget, we have to bear all the risks Dimitri may suffer during our soldiers' absence. Why must we help a kingdom whom we have never interacted with before? He asked. Sending reinforcements to help Luna Kingdom was utterly different from helping search for Queen Isabel. There was just too much to risk. Roman indifferently gazed down at Caden's gloomy face. The knight understood Roman's words but couldn't back down, desperate to help his people. After all, he had crossed the endless mountains alone for the sake of his kingdom. I understand your words. It's true that Dmitri must bear a lot of risks to help us. But you must not forget that Grakthar can also become a threat to your land. Grakthar's plan to use other races as food supplies can't solve the fundamental problem in Arcadia. Eventually, the orcs will run out of food supplies and eventually decide to cross the endless mountains. So please take this chance. Use Luna Kingdom while we are still capable and remove a future threat of Dmitri, the knight pleaded. Then, he finally revealed the ultimate reason he had come to Dmitri. Back when Queen Isabel decided to remain in Salamander, she told us to come find you and pledge our loyalty if things go south and Arcadia falls. Please don't neglect us. If you help rescue our lands, Luna Kingdom promises to be the gatekeeper of Arcadia and prevent all threats from crossing the endless mountains and attacking Dmitri. Caden kneeled before Roman and bowed his head. Luna Kingdom also vowed its allegiance to him. Roman needed some time to think over, facing Caden's firm resolution. Dimitri's leadership proceeded with the meeting after Caden left. Viscount Lawrence and those who supported him positively considered Caden's request. Luna Kingdom has a point. Grakthar will eventually cross the endless mountains and attack our lands to keep themselves from starving to death after conquering Arcadia. The problem is the timing of the incident. Though Kronos has agreed to peace for now, what if it reveals its teeth once again when Grakthar invades our lands, said the Viscount. I concur. We should eliminate Grakthar and the threat before Kronos attacks us again. Those who desired to support Luna requested Roman to prepare for contingencies. In the worst-case scenario, they would have to face Kronos and the orcs simultaneously. They believed they could prevent the worst by eliminating Grakthar right now as a preemptive measure and gain a valuable ally, Luna Kingdom, to keep the endless mountains safe. However, not everyone agreed with their thoughts. Viscount Conrad raised his voice and opposed. I think otherwise. Although I agree that the orcs living on the other side of the mountains could be a threat, it isn't easy to march an entire army across these mountains to attack Dmitri. And even if they were to succeed, we can easily destroy them by using our geographical advantage and minimize the damage. So why must we travel all the way across the endless mountains to eradicate a threat that had yet to invade our security? Not only will our forces struggle hiking up the rough mountainous terrain, but they will also have to fight against monsters living in those frozen lands. I doubt we will win. Even if we somehow seize victory, severe casualties will be inevitable, he explained. Why waste our time thinking about this matter? Luna Kingdom isn't an ally of Dmitri. Why sacrifice our men for their sake? A heated debate sparked inside the conference room. Both sides raised their voices to convince Roman their opinion was right. Although both groups had a point, Roman leaned slightly in favor of Viscount Conrad. The land on the other side of the endless mountains belonged to the enemy. He couldn't risk the danger without proper preparations, afraid of the future. After all, Luna Kingdom wasn't an ally. Dimitri's ties with the kingdom weren't close enough for them to risk the soldiers' lives in the harsh environment of Arcadia. The conflict in Valhalla can escalate at any moment. I can't risk the danger right now. I should wait and see how things turn out first. The timing was terrible. Listening to Caden's request, Roman Dmitri recalled a similar situation from Murim. He had to decline Caden's request mainly because of the freezing cold of Arcadia. His soldiers would evidently suffer massive losses while fighting in the harsh environment, let alone win the battle. Roman had faced a similar situation before when he was still Junghik Bek. There used to be a faction that disrupted Junghik Bek's conquest as much as the Justice faction. It was neither the evil faction nor the blood demon cult. Though small in size compared to the former two, it succeeded in slowing down the demonic cult's conquest by taking advantage of the cold weather. The faction was called the North Sea Ice Palace, nestled in a land of cold snow fields. Chapter 327. The Fall of Arcadia. Part 2. The incident occurred a year after Jung-Hik Baek became the divine demon. One of his brothers who fled the bloodbath combined his forces with the remnants of those who followed the former divine demon. And after uniting their forces, they settled in the North Sea Ice Palace. It was possible because the mother of Jung-Hik Baek's stepbrother was born in the palace. As long as I, Jin Myung-baek, remain alive, Jung-Hik Baek can't be officially recognized as the leader of the demonic cult, he proclaimed. The new rebels resisted and raised their voices against Jung-Hik Baek's rule in the northern lands. Their objective wasn't to defeat the new divine demon. After all, they knew they could never stand against Jung-Hik Baek's overwhelming power even if they were to receive the North Sea Ice Palace's support. However, Jin Myung-baek intended to take advantage of his bloodline and resist until he could share a part of Jung-Hik Baek's power. He wanted a compromise to return to the demonic cult. He chose the northern lands because he knew not even Jung-Hik Baek would be able to attack him, hiding in the frozen land. The northern lands were forbidden territory. For centuries, Murim had prohibited its people from entering the lands up north. After learning about Jin Myung-baek's rebellion force, the leaders of the demonic cult raised their voices and had a heated debate, like the leaders of Dmitri. We have to kill Jin Myung-baek. We can't sit in our hands while he continues undermining our demonic cult's roots. Who here doesn't know that? Jin Myung-baek intentionally revealed himself despite knowing he could be in grave danger. He knows we can't reach him, hiding in the North Sea Ice Palace. No matter how strong we may be, it's impossible for us to invade the northern lands and kill him as of now. Stop emphasizing something we all know. Though it may be impossible, we have to get rid of him at whatever cost. Then what will you do if our troops get annihilated by the enemies? We won't have anyone to protect our lands. The room was divided as the leaders roared, arguing against each other. Jin Myung-baek was undoubtedly a nuisance, but the demonic cult couldn't easily attack him, settling deep inside the North's frozen land. No one had ever succeeded in conquering the northern lands. The people of the North Sea Ice Palace knew how to take advantage of their harsh weather. They mainly engaged in attrition warfare against enemies who dared set foot in their lands to exhaust them to their death. They took the opportunity when their enemies were utterly exhausted from the cold and hunger. Their unique style of martial arts made them invincible, at least in the northern lands. Jin Myung-baek openly provoked Jung-Hik Baek and the demonic cult, knowing this. He knew they wouldn't be able to easily attack him, hiding in the land of the freezing cold. And if Jung-Hik Baek were to take the risk, he believed it would be an opportunity for him to seize the throne of the demonic cult. There will be no exception in my conquest to establish my demonic cult, Jung-Hik Baek declared that day. As he declared, he mobilized his troops to invade the northern lands. Jung-Hik Baek knew his authority could be questioned if he left exceptions to his rule. After making the necessary preparations, the demonic cult set foot in the northern lands and waged war to eliminate Jin Myung-baek. The white snowfields were tainted with blood. Countless lives were lost in the process. The warriors of the North Sea Ice Palace lived up to their names. They easily trounced the soldiers of the demonic cult on the snowy fields. However, when Jung-Hik Baek arrived on the battlefield, the enemies belatedly realized that not even the harsh environment of the northern lands could hinder him. There was nothing the divine demon couldn't overcome. He completely differed from Jin Myung-baek, who was nothing but a petty coward. Slaughter swept the battlefield. Jung-Hik Baek broke through the ice palace gates and massacred everyone who stood in his way. And after walking past the piles of corpses below his feet, he slashed his stepbrother's head. That marked the end of the North Sea Ice Palace and Jin Myung-baek's legacy. The people of the next generation were told that the Ice Palace and its martial arts were burned to ashes and erased from history. However, the truth was different. The North Sea Ice Palace disappeared from history by Jung-Hik Baek's very hands, only to be forgotten in his memory and the reports of the demonic cult. Arcadia shared similar aspects of the northern lands of Murim. Thus, Roman wasn't too concerned about the freezing Viscount Conrad emphasized. Unlike the orcs of Arcadia, the warriors of the North Sea Ice Palace knew how to use the cold to their advantage ideally. It didn't just end with their unique martial arts, they had all the necessary knowledge to survive in the harsh environment, including ways to find food, secure temporary shelter, and fast travel in the snow. They had their own ways to survive in the cold, unlike those who had never experienced it. In other words, the freezing cold wasn't the reason Roman hesitated. The main argument here is if it is truly worth the risk to help Luna, said Roman. Everyone turned their eyes to him. The aristocrats who were busy arguing against each other instantly quieted down and listened to Roman's words. If I could be certain the people living on the other side of the endless mountains, in the lands of Arcadia, will never pose a threat to us and invade Salamander, I would have ignored them. However, reality says otherwise. The dwarfs living underground of the endless mountains, Queen Isabel waging war against Kronos, and now even Caden are telling us Arcadia shares the same sky as us. In other words, the orcs currently destroying Arcadia will most certainly invade our lands in the future, he continued. Junghik Beck acknowledged the independence and freedom of those living on lands away from Murim. He would have allowed the people of the North Sea Ice Palace to exist as an outside force if they hadn't dared to challenge his power. The cost of crossing the lines and provoking the divine demon was enormous. Roman didn't think lightly of the recent incidents. He didn't take it as a coincidence that Arcadia's name had been constantly brought up recently. It implied that Arcadia was also a land he had to conquer. Arcadia is now a threat we can no longer neglect. I've decided to perceive the orcs as a threat to Dimitri's future the moment Caden shared the information. I will not ignore Caden's request. And for us to seize the land of Arcadia, we must eradicate the orcs and forge an alliance with Luna Kingdom. But as I mentioned, I don't intend on taking an undue risk. Thus, I will conditionally accept his request, stated Roman. Roman's priority was to prevent unnecessary sacrifices. He believed Dimitri had no reason to take undue risks for the sake of Luna. First, Luna has to accept to become a client state of Dimitri. Second, if the kingdom can't provide a method to traverse the endless mountains swiftly, we will deem this agreement void. And finally, Felix, how many people can we teleport at once if we use the teleport scroll across the endless mountains? Asked Roman. At most, 30, my lord, we can't accommodate more than 30 with our current technology, the mage replied. All right. Lastly, 30 people, including myself, will head to Arcadia. Our priority will be the eradication of the orcs, as requested. But if anything happens to Dimitri, we will return with the teleport scroll. The three conditions Roman laid out were entirely in Dimitri's favor. Roman stated the three conditions to Caden. The knight felt his heart sink. He doubted there was anything 30 men could do to help Luna. Plus, the condition that allowed Dimitri to back out any second worried him. However, this was the only hope he had. So, he gladly accepted the offer. Thank you. Thank you very much. Isabel had once told Caden that Roman Dimitri was a man who had gone beyond human limits. Though 30 men wasn't what he expected, he was grateful that Roman was a part of the group. The biggest problem of Luna Kingdom was that they didn't have a knight who could defeat Grakthar. He believed his visit to Dimitri would be worthwhile if only Roman could defeat the monstrous orc. You must have a way to quickly return to Luna, right? Tell me what your plan is, Roman said to the knight. Luna Kingdom has worked to establish a teleport point throughout the endless mountains for years to open a path that connects Arcadia and Salamander. Though the project is yet to be completed, I have set temporary coordinates along the path without the teleport points while coming to Dimitri. We should be able to reach Arcadia in about a week if we use them. However, we can't leave right away. Although Luna is indeed in grave danger, I'll need about a week to prepare, said Caden. He needed the week for particular reasons. The freezing cold of Arcadia wasn't something even the knight could take lightly. Necessary preparations were required for them to survive once they arrived there. Arcadia's cold is incomparable to the cold here in Salamander. You have to consume this special medication to adjust to the cold and also learn how to survive in the snow before leaving Dimitri, the knight explained. We'll skip that procedure, Roman replied. But Lord Roman, you must follow my guide. If not, I'm not saying we're going to leave unprepared. Dimitri will prepare on our own. We'll need some time, so let's leave exactly a week from now, Roman interrupted. Caden was at a loss for words, knowing how dangerous Roman's words meant. He wanted to dissuade him if possible, but being the supplicant, he kept his mouth shut, afraid he would get on Roman's nerves. "All right. Please ask for my help if you need anything," said Caden as he backed away. Caden felt like he was in a stew during the week. He couldn't help stopping by the Dimitri castle to warn them about the dangerous weather daily, full of worries. Dimitri will pay dearly if they take Arcadia's harsh weather lightly. The environment in Arcadia was unlike Salamander. Not only did it snow 24/7 in Arcadia, but its freezing cold was incomparable. First, the soldiers of Dimitri would struggle to adjust to the freezing weather. Next, they wouldn't be able to do a thing against the orcs with their feet sinking deep into the piled snow. Caden believed the soldiers of Dimitri would fail to realize their full potential, unlike the orcs who were accustomed to the harsh environment in Arcadia. Above all, the cold of Arcadia also affected the aura. It was cold enough to freeze even a knight's aura. It was essential to adjust how they manifest their mana before heading to Arcadia. Caden couldn't help feeling frustrated. The fate of his kingdom now depended on Dimitri. He tried his best to convince Roman and help him understand the significance of the preparations, but Roman constantly refused. There was nothing he could do if Dimitri failed to realize the importance of his advice. It felt like he was talking to a wall. Ultimately, he chose to wait until Roman experienced the cold himself, hoping he would learn it the hard way. Caden decided to contact his kingdom during the wait. Beep. "I'm calling to update the situation here in Dimitri." Roman Dimitri agreed to help Luna Kingdom. 30 of his men will arrive in Arcadia in 2 weeks, which includes the preparation time. So avoid direct confrontation as much as possible and prioritize stalling time until we arrive, said Caden. It took some time for the connection to be made. The device required several hours to send the message. Once the message arrived in Luna, the recipients couldn't hide their disappointment. What can we do with only 30 soldiers? Thousands of orcs from the Grey Wasteland are roaming around Arcadia and destroying our lands. 30 won't do to turn the tables. Is there any way you can persuade Roman Dimitri to mobilize more troops? This is the best I can get from him. And I understand Dimitri's position. They don't have a reason to take undue risk for a kingdom they have no ties with. Plus, with the Valhalla Empire on the verge of facing a rebellion, Dimitri will inevitably face significant danger by mobilizing its army to save us. I can't ask them for more. You must understand. We wouldn't have provided any help to another state if we were put in the same shoes, Caden replied. All right, return safe. Caden understood their disappointment. After all, Dimitri was Luna's only hope. 30 soldiers were far less than they had expected. But he had no other choice, so he chose to believe in Isabel. Caden and the people of Luna didn't precisely know Roman's strength. They had only heard rumors about him through the witnesses from the war between Dimitri and Kronos. They hadn't seen what he had accomplished. Isabel had told them that Roman Dimitri would be more than enough to help them. So, they believed in her words and eased their worried minds since Roman was also coming to Luna. A week flew by. And the time had come for Roman and his men to finally leave for Arcadia, the frozen land on the other side of the endless mountains. Chapter 328. The Fall of Arcadia. Part 3. 3 knights represented Luna Kingdom: Leo, the captain of the Royal Knights, Zyro of the Snowfield, and Caden, the White Squirrel. Caden was the weakest among the 3 knights, but that didn't mean he could be underestimated. After all, he was a proud level 4 Aura Knight who represented Luna Kingdom. His swift sword style that pierced through the snow earned him the title of one of Arcadia's strongest knights. However, Caden sensed something odd when he saw the 29 soldiers who would accompany him to Luna. He was incredibly intimidated by their atmosphere. They all seem extremely strong for some reason. Caden had grown up in Arcadia his entire life. This was his first time traveling across the endless mountains, so he knew little about Dimitri. He had heard about Chris and Kevin since the two had made outstanding achievements during the war against Kronos. But the soldiers standing next to them also looked strangely powerful. The first person that caught his eye was Fred. He obviously looked like an average soldier just by his looks, but Caden immediately knew he wasn't easy prey. And then, he turned to Logan standing next to Fred. As soon as his eyes matched Logan's fierce glare, he immediately realized he couldn't defeat him. And lastly, he found Ares standing in the corner. Shivers ran down his spine just looking at him as Caden gulped anxiously. I can't believe Dimitri possesses such mighty warriors. The Knight of Luna was incredibly stunned. Caden, the third strongest Knight of Luna, concluded at least 6 more knights from the group, including Roman Dimitri, were more potent than him. But the most astonishing part was that they weren't the only ones who exceeded his expectations. The other soldiers lined up behind appeared formidable enough to become members of Luna Royal Knightage. They didn't look like average soldiers in Caden's eyes. Caden was baffled. He was convinced the 30 soldiers before him would be enough to rescue his kingdom. Above all, when Roman Dimitri appeared before the group, Caden was at a loss for words, utterly mesmerized. Step, step. The soldiers swiftly lined up when they saw Roman approaching from afar. Even Ares and Kevin, the ghost of Dimitri, hurriedly moved to get in line. Roman's presence alone overwhelmed everyone lined up before him. Caden finally realized why Isabel had told him to find Roman in need of help, witnessing his overwhelming presence. He was convinced Dimitri was the only hope to save Luna. I will guide you to Luna Kingdom, Caden said politely. He volunteered to take the lead, pressured and intimidated by Roman's presence. When Luna Kingdom received Caden's message a week ago, its leadership couldn't hide their disappointment. Sebastian, the Grand Priest of Luna, who was in charge of the kingdom during Isabel's absence, relayed Caden's message to the leadership. Dimitri has agreed to send 30 soldiers, including Roman Dimitri, to help Luna, said Sebastian. Only 30? Yes. However, we must understand Dimitri is doing us a favor while bearing the risk. It has already fought consecutive wars, and Valhalla is on the verge of facing a rebellion. Dimitri didn't have to help us in the first place, yet Roman offered help if we accepted his conditions. He's also coming with the group. They are expected to arrive in 2 weeks, so let's focus on defending the walls until their arrival, said the Grand Priest. The leaders sighed in disappointment. The day Caden left Luna, the people desperately prayed to the gods for their mercy. They prayed the heavens would bring Roman Dimitri to rescue their lands overshadowed by despair and begged the gods not to abandon them. But when they heard only 30 soldiers were coming to their help, they couldn't help feeling disappointed. Sebastian emphasized that Roman Dimitri alone could be of significant help, but it wasn't enough to convince the people. Distressing news had been sweeping across Arcadia lately. The people of Luna heard about how Grakthar and his orcs were slaughtering other races and using humans as their food supplies. Fear devoured their hearts. They realized that Grakthar's invasion wouldn't simply end with their deaths. The people feared they would be enslaved as livestock of the orcs and live a tragic life. Thus, they desperately hoped Caden would bring good news. As one would say, the higher the expectation, the higher the disappointment. The people of Luna belatedly realized it was sheer ambition to expect help from Roman Dimitri, who had no ties with the kingdom. But there was no room for rational thinking now that the kingdom stood on the edge of a cliff. Though they understood Dimitri's decision, 30 soldiers weren't enough to ease their troubled hearts. Sir Grand Priest, we can't turn the tables with just 30 soldiers from Dimitri. Luna Kingdom must respond since we can't just trust in Roman Dimitri now, said Zyro of the Snowfield. Zyro appeared determined as he gazed around the room with his fierce eyes. He raised his voice to grab the leader's attention. Queen Isabel told us how great Roman Dimitri is. And I don't doubt them. But we can't solely rely on him with the future of our kingdom at stake. Luna has existed for generations. Although we haven't fought many wars in this land of peace, the people of Luna have always succeeded in protecting our lands within Arcadia. Let us not lose hope and hold pride as the only human race in these lands. But Zyro, we must face reality. Luna can't subdue the thousands of orcs on our own, said Sebastian worriedly. Luna Kingdom was relatively small compared to the kingdoms on Salamander. Its birth rate was low due to the freezing cold, and its population was far less than Cairo's. Plus, Luna hadn't experienced many wars throughout its history. As a result, not many of its people had received proper military training, which meant its chances of winning against the orcs, naturally born warriors, were low. However, Zyro refused to agree. I understand that Luna is weak compared to Grakthar's orc army. I'm not asking we should mobilize our forces to end the war alone. We still have 2 weeks until Roman Dimitri arrives. I'm saying we should make our move right now so that we can annihilate the orcs when Roman Dimitri arrives. Let us not sit in our hands and let the orcs destroy our repositories. I will command the troops and lead them to battle. If Luna can seize the momentum, we should be able to root out the evildoers, he argued. I concur. Let's kill those orcs with our own hands. The people in the room raised their voices, agreeing to Zyro's argument. They were stirred by his words and believed they shouldn't just sit and watch as the orcs destroyed their lands. People were dying over the walls. Their anger had already reached its limits. They refused to sit in the castle and wait for Roman's arrival. Sigh. Sebastian sighed deeply. Not even the Grand Priest could quench the leader's passionate desire to fight back. He had no choice but to make a decision. All right. How do you plan on disrupting the orcs? Russell. Zyro rolled open the map and pointed at the 7th repository, which had been recently lost to the orcs. Grakthar's army is currently stationed here. Looking at their attack pattern so far, it is highly likely they will make their move to strike another settlement. Where do you think that will be? Asked the knight. Probably the 6th repository. There were a total of 8 repositories in Luna, lands that were blessed by Isabel's power. Isabel's sacred power protected these lands from the freezing cold, where the people settled to farm and named them the repositories. Grakthar's army had already captured 2 repositories, aiming to seize all 8. I disagree. Grakthar is an extremely hostile orc. Thus, he'll probably take down other settlements he finds along the way. His goal is to use all other races as his food supply. In other words, he'll most likely turn to destroy the Yeti tribe, said Zyro, shaking his head. The Yeti tribe was a race of ape-like creatures covered in fur who were almost 10 feet tall. The Yetis were powerful creatures strong enough to combat against the orcs. But unfortunately, they were low in numbers. With only hundreds of them, their extinction seemed inevitable when attacked by the orcs. Zyro pointed at another area on the map. At the end of his fingertip was a narrow path surrounded by cliffs that led to the Yeti settlement. Right here. The orcs will have to cross this path to reach the Yeti tribe. And since we have never taken the initiative against the orcs, Grakthar will probably mobilize his troops without much thought. This is our opportunity to strike when the enemies have lowered their guards. We should be able to deliver a significant blow if we ambush the orcs after combining our forces with the Yetis. The Yetis can interdict the narrow path while we cause an avalanche on these cliffs to wipe out the orcs. Of course, we won't be able to eradicate them completely, but it's better than just sitting on our hands during the next 2 weeks. Everyone nodded their heads in agreement. Zyro was the knight of the snowfield. The leaders were convinced, hearing from the knight who had mastered the art of fighting on the snowfields. Sebastian eventually agreed to engage in the battle after much thought. Okay, but promise me you will flee the battlefield if things go south. If we lose our troops here, we won't be able to do anything even if Roman Dimitri arrives, the Grand Priest stated. Yes, I promise, said Zyro, standing up. Sebastian watched with a worried gaze as the soldiers left the camp, following Zyro's command. He dearly missed her particularly more today than usual. Everything went as planned. Zyro and his troops took cover in the cliffs and watched the orcs march forward from afar. Grakthar, this will be your grave. The knight whispered in his mind, clenching his teeth. Zyro had encountered Grakthar a few years ago in a duel where the representatives of each race participated. He thought positively of the orc, impressed by his skills since it was uncommon to come across a skilled warrior like himself in a peaceful world. However, his thoughts on Grakthar completely changed with the war. He felt disgusted by what the orcs had done to the people. It turned out the orcs had seen other races as nothing but mere food while laughing and living in harmony with them. The objective of this operation wasn't coordinated just to deal significant damage to the orcs. Zyro intended to eliminate Grakthar after inducing fear and chaos to the orcs with the avalanche. And if his strategy were to succeed, it would mark the beginning of the counteroffensive. The orcs would inevitably lose their momentum with Grakthar gone. They weren't a massive threat without their leader. The orcs finally arrived at the valley. As soon as they entered the path, the Yetis hiding under the snow jumped out and charged forward. "Arg! We're under attack," the orcs grunted. "The Yetis are here," they cried. Smash! The Yetis swung their immense arms against the orcs. After crushing the orcs standing in the front line, they gave a tremendous cry of anger. The battle began. The Yetis used their bodies as weapons to shred the orcs to pieces, while the orcs counterattacked by jumping over the others' corpses and stabbing the Yetis with their axes. Thwack! Blood covered the path. The Yetis cried in pain, but instead of tending their wounds, they turned to the orcs hanging on to their bodies and smashed them. Smash! A deadly and brutal sight unfolded in the valley. Zyro, in his white cloak, patiently waited for the right time as crimson blood tainted the snow. He had to wait a little longer to wipe out the orcs. Unlike the Yetis, who could survive buried in the snow, the violent creatures had no means to survive the disaster. So, he had to wait until all the orcs entered the valley. The deeper they marched in, the more he could wipe out. However, it was only a matter of time before Zyro's face stiffened in shock. Something seemed odd. He couldn't find Grakthar, who usually always stood at the vanguard of his army. No way. Shivers ran down the knight's body. An ominous feeling struck his heart. The moment he hurriedly got up from his hideout, a painful cry echoed into his ears. "Arg!" a soldier cried. "Ack! We're under attack. The enemies found us." Zyro couldn't believe his eyes. Grakthar and his elite troops climbed up the cliff from the narrow valley to ambush his troops. "I knew you would plan something like this," the leader of the orc grunted. Zyro belatedly realized he and his troops were the ones who had fallen into Grakthar's trap. Chapter 329. The Fall of Arcadia. Part 4. A tense battle unfolded upon the cliffs. Zyro gritted his teeth as he faced the orcs rushing at him. "We'll all die at this rate." Behind his troops was the edge of the cliff. Grakthar and the orcs blocked the only path to escape their death. The future appeared bleak as the orcs trounced the soldiers one after another. At that moment, Sebastian's words crossed Zyro's mind. He recalled the Grand Priest's words. He had to help his men escape now that things had gone south. The soldiers were the last hope to protect Luna in order to help Roman Dimitri when he arrived. "I'm deeply sorry, Grand Priest Sebastian. I should have listened to you." But it was already too late for regrets. Zyro couldn't ignore the desperate cries of his people dying outside the castle despite knowing that defending the walls was his best option. The repositories were sacred lands blessed by Isabel's powers. He couldn't neglect the people risking their lives to protect the food stored there. His heart broke hearing the stories of the corpses and bones lying within those sacred lands. Words weren't enough to describe the devastating feeling. Looking down at the bones of the dead with their flesh sticking to them, Zyro had promised himself he would get his revenge for those who died. However, he failed. Grakthar was far more clever than he had thought and deliberately lured him and his men to death by faking the orcs' attack on the Yetis. Krohar. Rumble. Zyro manifested his aura and yelled to his men, grasping his sword. "I will open the way. Wait for my command and escape this place with all your strength." There was no better choice. He had to clear the path for his men to escape. Zyro rushed forward. The snow couldn't slow him down. He manifested his mana across his feet to lightly step over the snow and gain speed. The way he delicately controlled his mana was unbelievable. Zyro adroitly controlled his mana and moved his body to dash across the snowfield. His experiences in battle shone through. Dash. Crohair. Zyro's aura exploded. His white aura slashed their bodies in half as the orcs charged at him, showing their fierce fangs. Shing. Arg. The orcs collapsed to the ground, crying in pain. After slashing an orc's chest, he immediately sliced off its head before it could scream. Then, he swiftly moved forward to kill another orc coming after him to get its companion's revenge. After finding a vulnerable point in the orc's body, he dashed over the snow to murder it. Slash. Thwack. Zyro sliced its arms and stabbed its heart. Though it appeared like his aura was a little dull from the cold, he rather amplified its sharpness by heating it with his mana. The slightly frozen aura blade instantly froze whatever it sliced through. Bring it on, you disgusting pigs. Crowhar. Rumble. Zyro was the proud level 5 aura knight of Luna Kingdom. He crushed his enemies like mere ants. The cold weather and the snowfield did not affect his swordsmanship. He was the knight of the snowfield, indeed. He truly lived up to his reputation, slicing the orcs as blood smeared the pure white snow. The soldiers of Luna also reinforced their knight as they watched him crush the enemies with his white aura. Hope wasn't lost. They believed they would make it out alive as long as they put their trust in Zyro. As the soldiers charged forward, full of hope, Grakthar appeared on the battlefield. The orc leader had come to crush every bit of hope the humans had. Zyro exploded his aura and rushed forward at full speed while yelling at his men. Now! Run! He intended to hold Grakthar until his men could escape. The survival of the troops was the best he could do for Luna, even if it meant risking his own life. Crowhair. The knight charged against the orc. He gritted his teeth, grasping his sword, as he faced Grakthar, blocking the path. The aura manifested from his body steadily began to emit light and reflected over the white snow. Grakthar's vision was blinded by the glittering light reflecting from the snowfield. It was a technique Zyro had developed. It was the perfect skill to slow Grakthar down by catching it off guard. You're pulling quite a stunt, the orc grunted with a grin. Then, Zyro saw the orc's fierce eyes glaring straight at him while the light glowed brightly. And before he could do anything, an aura-coated axe was raised high into the sky. It smashed down on the knight, erupting with level 6 aura power not even Zyro could withstand. No way. It turned out Grakthar had intentionally hidden its power when dueling against Zyro back in the day. The knight desperately swung his sword to block the axe falling on him, but it was too late. Thwack. Blast. Crowhar. Rumble. That was the last of Zyro's memory. Zyro slowly regained consciousness after a long time. He found himself lying in a dark, gloomy cave. The knight slowly observed his surroundings as the dim moonlight lit down through the tiny hole above his head. He could vaguely see the people around him. Sob sob. We're all going to die. He could hear the people cry, lost in despair. They were the people who lived in the 7th and the 8th repository. The people of Luna, who believed Luna would come to their rescue, couldn't stop crying after finding Zyro lying in the cave in a terrible state. They were demoralized finding one of Luna's strongest knights held captive with them. The fact that he was imprisoned implied the fall of Luna. Hopelessness devoured the hearts of those in the cave. However, they refused to accept the bitter reality while weeping in deep sorrow. Creak. At that moment, the door to the cave suddenly creaked open. The orcs had arrived. The people cringed in fear and looked away. Zyro tried to get up to fight the orcs but couldn't. It seemed like his legs were injured. Orcs observed the people weeping with a strange look. Zyro recalled one of the orcs standing in the front. Its name was Kallo, one of the orc officers who served Grakthar. Kallo gave a vile smirk as he looked around the cave. Then, it approached a man and grabbed him by his hair. Yank. Arg. Let's take him. Look at his plumb belly. His meat looks so much juicier than the others, it grunted. The man desperately shook his body to escape the orc's grip. However, Kallo's firm grip refused to let go as he dragged the man. Tears and snot dripped from the man's face. Once he spotted Zyro, he cried in a desperate voice. Please. Help me, Sir Zyro." The knight belatedly realized that Kalo and the orcs had come to grab food. Swept away by anger, he crawled across the ground to save the man. "You bastards! Take me instead! Let him go and take me," he cried. Zyro clenched his teeth, feeling guilty for his helplessness. He would have saved everyone in the cave and his kingdom if only he had been stronger. However, his reckless decision only drove his people to their deaths. And now he had also become nothing but a food source for the monsters. His life was no longer important. Instead, he couldn't bear the sense of guilt burning his heart. He preferred to sacrifice his life than to watch others die and get eaten by the orcs. Kalo stopped at Zyro's cry. Then, he looked down at the pitiful knight and smiled. "Do you know why we're not killing you right now? It's always better to keep the meat fresh by keeping you alive than consuming you after your death. So, don't be in a hurry to die. We'll soon slice your flesh off while you're still breathing." Creak. Thud. The orcs left the cave. Zyro could only regret as the man's desperate cry grew weaker. He also lost hope, realizing his foolish decision destroyed the last remaining hope for Luna to strike back. A few days later, Caden, who was guiding Roman Dimitri and his men to the teleport points, received Luna's message. "Things aren't looking good here in Luna, Caden. Zyro led our troops to ambush the orcs, but instead, they fell right into the enemy's trap and were annihilated. We're not sure where Zyro is. Grakthar and his orcs are marching to Luna's fortress. We'll be under attack before you arrive at this rate." Pause. Caden paused in shock. He couldn't hold his anger, enraged by the message. "Why? I thought I told them to hold their ground and refrain from engaging." He screamed in anger. Luna had to wait just 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, he would arrive in Luna with Roman to turn the tide of the battle. However, Zyro's impatience ruined everything. He understood why the leaders of the kingdom had grown impatient. After all, 30 soldiers were far less than they had anticipated. They must have lost confidence after receiving Caden's message. Plus, it was a lifetime opportunity to disrupt the orcs by combining their forces with the Yetis. However, Caden believed they should have waited. With Zyro's whereabouts unconfirmed and most soldiers held captive, it felt like Luna's last hope was lost. Caden felt nauseous, thinking about the bleak future. But it was already too late to cry over spilled milk. He had to find a solution quickly. A couple of days must have passed since Luna sent this message. "I should hurry and get to the kingdom as soon as possible." The telegram connections were weak due to the long distance and Arcadia's harsh environment. It would have been easier to reach Luna with the telegram if Arcadia also had coordinates like the ones Salamander used to connect their warp gates. However, Luna didn't have warp gates. Caden left a message through the telegram since it was impossible to check Luna in real time. "Hold the walls as long as possible. I will get there as soon as possible," he said. Tap. He turned off the telegram after leaving the message. Time was against him. He immediately went to see Roman. He needed Roman's help to move faster. Their initial plan was to arrive in Arcadia in a week. Caden estimated the time, considering the distance between the teleport points. But thanks to Roman's help, they were able to reduce the time by 2 days. A blizzard welcomed Caden as soon as he set foot in Arcadia. The snowstorm obstructing his eyesight and the bone-chilling cold proved that the group had arrived in Arcadia. "Lord Roman Dimitri, I have a request to make. I suggest we train Luna's combat style here for a day and move to the kingdom," said Caden. Roman asked why, a bit surprised by the unexpected request. "As I've mentioned before, time is against Luna Kingdom. It's in grave danger. It would be best to arrive at the kingdom's fortress as early as possible, but I can't risk endangering you in combat without properly preparing you for Arcadia's harsh environment. You will undoubtedly face trouble moving across the snow piled over the fields, and your aura will be shattered, unable to withstand the cold. The enemies you'll face are the orcs who have survived through these harsh conditions for ages," said Caden. He felt like sitting in a stew. To be honest, he wanted to head to the fortress immediately. However, he couldn't drive Roman and his men to their deaths without giving them the time to get familiar with the severe cold. So, he needed a compromise. Instead of spending 3 to 4 days to train, he suggested Roman spend just 1 day and head to the kingdom. At least a day of training seemed enough to prepare the soldiers of Dmitri to fight against the orcs in the snow. This was the best he could do as of now. But surprisingly, Roman declined Caden's request and instead suggested heading straight to the kingdom. "I thought I made myself clear, Caden. We'll worry about Arcadia's cold on our own. So hurry. Lead the way to the fortress. It'll be too late to turn the tables if it falls into the enemy's hands," said Roman. "But remember, we are here to help. I make the decision." Caden gritted his teeth. He couldn't understand why Roman would refuse his active consideration to care for his men's safety. But it seemed like his words couldn't persuade Roman. So, he chose to show Roman and his men why he tried so hard to prepare them by letting them feel the cold and the harsh environment in person. "All right then. It'll take about a day for us to reach Luna's fortress. I'm planning to go full speed to reduce the time. Yell my name if you think you can't keep up," said the knight. Caden earned his reputation as the White Squirrel because of his superhuman speed in the snow. No one could run as fast as he could in the freezing cold. That was why he was appointed as the messenger to Dmitri. With his fast speed, he dashed over the endless mountains and met Roman. "They'll probably regret turning down my suggestion once they start running in the snow. I'll show them how hard it is to dash across the snowfield. I can teach them Luna's way when they belatedly accept the bitter reality before them." Caden refused to force Dmitri to face a helpless death. He had to prepare them since they had come to help his kingdom. So, intending to teach Roman and his men a lesson, he rushed forward. "Please follow me, and don't fall behind," he said, dashing through the snow. Whir! The blizzard grew stronger. Caden and the soldiers of Dmitri vanished into the snowstorm. Chapter 330. The Fall of Arcadia. Part 5. Back in the day, the people of Luna debated who would be faster in the snow, between Zyro, the snowfield knight, and Caden, the white squirrel. The majority of the people leaned toward Caden. However, knowing how formidable Zyro could be on the snowfield, some fervently argued that Zyro would win the race. Eventually, the two knights faced each other in a race to dash across a 6-mile track. The people were stunned by the outcome. Caden swiftly crossed the finish line when Zyro just crossed the halfway mark. Since then, no one dared challenge Caden's title as the White Squirrel. The people of Luna believed no one in all of Arcadia could be faster than Caden. Thus, the knight couldn't believe his eyes, witnessing the soldiers of Dmitri following right behind him in the snow despite his agile speed. Not a single one fell behind. How is this possible? Caden thought in his mind. It didn't make any sense. Snow-covered grounds tended to slow people down as their feet sunk deep, and the larger the body, the slower their pace became. The method to rapidly sprint on snow was a technique passed down only to the people of Luna. It was a unique method that allowed its people to dash across the snowfield while keeping their feet light on the snow. In particular, the knights capable of manifesting their auras mastered the skill of explosively rushing over the snow while lightly stepping over it. It wasn't a technique that could be learned in 1 or 2 days. It required delicate control of one's mana. However, Roman soldiers immediately followed behind Caden without slowing their pace. The knight turned around to see the ground below them, only to find a fine trace of their footprints behind them. They know how to walk on snow perfectly. How else could they move so easily across the snowfield while leaving such a fine trace? I don't understand. I believe Luna has never taught anyone about this skill in Dmitri or Salamander. Perhaps this was what Roman Dmitri was talking about. Maybe Dmitri has developed its own method. Caden couldn't believe his eyes. His skill was a product of Luna's long-standing history. To his understanding, it was impossible for Dmitri, who had all 4 seasons, to develop a skill as exceptional as Luna's. Not to forget, the soldiers of Dmitri didn't seem hindered by the freezing cold or the blizzard blurring their vision. They didn't need any prior preparation or training to adapt to the cold. They were different from average humans who normally would first seek shelter in the cold of the blizzard, let alone sprint across the snowfield. Various thoughts crossed the knight's mind. Though relieved that the soldiers of Dmitri had come prepared, he felt his pride undermined. However, he didn't waste time asking Roman how they could quickly adapt to the cold. Perhaps? Roman Dmitri didn't even leave a trace on the snow. He drifted over the white field as if levitating over the ground. Caden thought perhaps Roman could be faster than him. The only reason Roman didn't go past him was because Caden was his guide. He didn't need to waste his energy to outrun the knight. Caden didn't waste too much time questioning the reality before him. The safety of his kingdom was his priority. With the soldiers of Dmitri following right behind him, he had one less problem to worry about. He focused all his energy on reaching the fortress as fast as possible. He expected to arrive there in less than a day. The knight and the soldiers of Dmitri rushed forward without pausing. As they approached closer to their destination, Caden heard his telegram ringing. Beep. Caden, we see the orcs marching toward our walls from the horizon. We will soon engage in the decisive battle. Pause. Caden paused to listen to the messages sent by Sebastian, an ominous feeling wrapped around his heart. It appears like the enemy is disrupting our communication. I don't know how they read through our intentions, but they already know we're stalling for time. Grakthar and thousands of troops have arrived before our walls. They are here to finish everything before you arrive. I can't promise we will succeed in holding the walls before your arrival. Caden's hands trembled as he held the telegram. Never in his wildest dream did he expect the orcs to disrupt their communication. Every piece came together now. He should have been able to contact the kingdom once he set foot in Arcadia, but for some reason, he hadn't received any response until now. The orcs were blocking the messages from reaching him. Grakthar had perfectly read through Luna's plan. Afraid Roman Dmitri and the reinforcements would arrive, it changed its plan and headed straight to Luna's fortress instead of wasting time seizing the repositories. Shivers ran down Caden's spine. Luna was weak. The kingdom didn't have the force to resist against thousands of orcs. The knight's face was lost in despair once listening to the final message. I'm deeply sorry, Caden. Abandon the fortress and save yourself. Luna had already fallen into the enemy's hands. One misconception about orcs was that people believed the creatures were savage and stupid with their pig-like faces. Perhaps because of this misconception, Zyro fell into the enemy's trap. Though the orcs were audacious monsters who feared nothing, Grakthar was different. The Orc Lord was far more intelligent than most of the orcs. It carefully considered its plan to neutralize Zyro's plan and cleverly yet brutally interrogated the prisoners. It ordered its subordinates to feast on the prisoners alive so that they would spill everything they knew, losing their minds. Our Roman Dmitri. Dmitri is coming to help us. Not many of them are coming. Sir Zyro planned to set up a trap to turn the tides of this war in Luna's favor, learning that only 30 Dmitri soldiers were coming. So, please. I won't ask you to spare my life. Just kill me right now, for God's sake. Grakthar learned Luna's plan. Roman Dmitri's name didn't ring a bell since it had never heard the name before. The people of Luna only knew Roman because of their queen, who shared the information she obtained in Salamander. The Orc Lord had no clue who this man named Roman Dmitri was. However, it could tell from the prisoners' voices that Luna was heavily relying on this human, which implied that he could be a threat to its plan. Though it didn't seem like only 30 humans could ruin its strategy, it concluded not to leave any room for the humans to stir an upset. Kalo, we'll head straight to Luna's fortress, the Orc Lord grunted. Yes, sir. Grakthar changed its plan. If Luna Kingdom was stalling time for its reinforcements to arrive, all it had to do was wipe out the kingdom's army before Dmitri's arrival. No matter how strong Roman Dmitri was, it would be impossible for him to turn the tables with the kingdom gone. The orc also ordered its sorcerer to disrupt the kingdom's communication. the orc army finally appeared before the walls of Luna Kingdom. Grakthar ordered its orcs without hesitation. "Follow my lead," it shouted. "Arg! Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr," the orcs growled. The kingdom was stunned. It didn't expect the orcs to arrive before its walls this early. The soldiers standing on the walls were petrified as they watched the orcs rush toward the walls, following Grakthar's command. They hurriedly got into their position and fired their arrows. They poured boiling water down the ladders to stop the orcs from reaching the top, and some soldiers burned them using oil and torches. Flames devoured the wooden ladders. The snow couldn't extinguish the fire as it spread across the field, burning the orcs. Krohar. Rumble. Grakthar manifested his aura. He struck down the fortress gates with his red aura but failed to breach them. The gates were unlike the ones from the 7th repository. Wham! No matter how hard he struck down, it couldn't even leave a scratch with its axe. Bless. Sebastian cast a spell, gathering his hands on the walls. Luna Kingdom was relatively weak compared to other kingdoms and states, with a small number of soldiers. The only reason they managed to survive was Isabel's sacred power, which buffed her troops in battle. Sebastian also had the same sacred power, though weaker than hers. He cast a spell to harden the gates sturdier than steel and blessed the soldiers around him. Die. Oh heavens! Please bless us with your sacred power. The soldiers charged forward, empowered by Sebastian's sacred power. They stabbed the orcs climbing up the walls with their weapons and held their ground more robust than ever. Luna Kingdom, the blessed kingdom of Arcadia, refused to fall. As the only human society in Arcadia, it resisted evil and fought for survival. The soldiers exhibited immense force, empowered by Sebastian's sacred power. Though his power was weaker than Isabel's, it wrapped around the soldiers' bodies and strengthened them. Not even the orcs' deadly attacks could wear them out. The soldiers desperately resisted even while blood gushed out from their bodies, and some even threw their bodies down the walls while holding onto an orc, shouting the gods' names. An intense battle unfolded on the walls. Tens of thousands of orcs struggled to break the walls protected by only a few thousand soldiers. If only Zyro were here, or only if Leo, the captain of the Royal Knights, hadn't left with Isabel, Luna would have held their ground a little longer. Grakthar climbed up a ladder, and as soon as it arrived on top of the walls, it slashed a soldier charging at him. The soldiers trembled in fear as blood gushed from dozens of soldiers' bodies. Not even Sebastian's sacred power could protect the soldiers from the Orc Lord's fierce attack. Its murderous glare instantly froze the soldiers surrounding it. They stood petrified before their bleak future. "I will bring an end to Luna today," it grunted. Grakthar slaughtered every soldier standing in its way. Wham! Then, it sliced down the chains holding the gates. Once the chains were cut, the gates burst open. A wave of orcs flooded through the opened gates and swarmed the fortress. It was the end. "Oh God!" gasped Sebastian, squeezing his eyes shut in disbelief. This all happened a day before Caden arrived in Arcadia. Crackle crackle. The walls of Luna were set on fire. Only the cries of humans filled the destroyed fortress. "Ack! Please spare my life. Just this once, ugh." Thwack. An orc smashed a man's head with its cudgel. The man begging for mercy, holding onto the orc's leg, lost consciousness and collapsed to the ground. Blood poured out from his head and spread across the floor. "You filthy bastards. We're planning to store you alive, so stop begging us to kill you," Kaulo grunted with a frown. The orcs had already collected the dead bodies on the battlefield and stored them in cold storage to eat later. However, Grakthar had told its subordinates to keep the humans alive as much as possible. It wasn't planning on showing mercy to the petty humans. Instead, it intended to keep the humans as livestock to produce food once the orcs slaughtered all races in Arcadia. Luna's fortress was its new storage. Grakthar left the fortress to destroy other settlements. Kaulo and its troops remained to manage the captured humans. The orcs first moved the corpses to the cold storage and forced the humans into a narrow space, which the orcs referred to as the stable. And they also fixed the gates and the walls in case Dimitri's reinforcements were to arrive. They mended Luna's fortress so that it appeared untouched. It was a trap. The orcs intended to use one of the soldiers by threatening their families to trick the foolish humans and lure them to walls. Luna has lost all hope. "We're done," said a man named Smith in despair. He was one of the prisoners in the stable. Zyro, who had promised to slaughter the orcs, had become livestock like others, and Sebastian was taken somewhere by Grakthar. The leaders of the kingdom were either captured or had gone missing. The people believed Luna had lost its final hope, losing contact with Queen Isabel and Captain Leo. They heard about Caden and how he succeeded in persuading Roman Dimitri. However, it was already too late. 30 soldiers weren't enough to eliminate Grakthar and its orc army, let alone seize Luna's fortress commanded by Kalo. 10,000 orcs were waiting in the fortress. Smith cried in despair as he watched his friend slowly die, with blood gushing out of his body. "Captain Kalo. The humans are approaching the walls," an orc grunted on the walls. "It must be Roman Dimitri." Kalo gave a sinister smile after receiving the report. Then, it grabbed one of the soldiers and climbed up the walls. "Human, you will act as if nothing happened here. Greet the soldiers approaching the walls and bring them close as much as possible. If you do as I say, I will spare you and your family's lives," said Kalo. "Ah, yes." Kalo pushed the soldier forward on the walls. There was a chance the reinforcements could have received the message despite the communication disruption. But it didn't matter. The orcs would wipe the fools out if the soldier could lure them close to the walls. If not, the 10,000 orcs could strike together. There was no way 30 humans could break through the fortress. Kalo gulped its watery mouth, imagining how humans from Salamander would taste. It couldn't hide its excitement as it stood on the walls. The orcs couldn't wait to feast on the humans in their victory party.